Welcome, everybody. This is our very first episode of Cash Flow. I'm your host, Cesar Dogan, and I have my co-host right here, Ahmet Dogan.
Ahmet Dogan. Yes, that's me.
That's you. Yeah,
Uh,
perfect.
So our podcast is named after cash flow. Can you explain what cash flow actually is?
So the whole idea of why we're doing this podcast, let's tell our audience. So we want to talk about financial stability. We want to talk about daily life, what you can do, what's trending, how you can be financially liberated, and the type of things that you need to pay attention to. So not just nationally, but also internationally, because there's a lot of hot spots where people can actually invest into, and we want to talk about all of these things.
Love what you just said, Caesar. So a little bit about who we actually are. I'll start first. I have been a mortgage agent for almost 3 years now, as you obviously know, Caesar, and we help clients achieve home ownership for the ones that think that it is, impossible, for ones that think that they cannot afford it. And we think that we do a very, very good job by obviously providing budget sheets for clients, multiple different options, and essentially setting the expectation for them so that they know step by step what's going to happen throughout the whole
Dude,
transaction.
why does it sound like, I don't know, it's church or something? You're speaking as if it's, I don't know, like it's like an intervention or something. Is this,
I don't know.
speak
I don't know
up,
how
man.
to-
I need the energy.
Cash flow is a very big problem.
Yeah.
Okay, so why is it that here in Canada, primarily here in Canada, we are the largest company with the debt per capita? Why do we have such a very limited understanding of cash flow? Why don't we understand how to have cash flow? What's happening here?
There's a lack of financial literacy.
Well, even in our schools, this is a huge issue. When I used to teach, this was actually a huge talk. Why is it that we're not having a subject on financial literacy? Like, how can we actually get people to understand basic economics? Like the forefathers of economics said, your assets, your liabilities, that's what it is. So how much are you making? How much are you spending? And how much are you actually keeping? That's economics. But it seems like people don't understand it. They don't understand bank accounts. They don't understand the fees that they're paying. They don't understand that they should actually discriminate one bank over another because it may serve them better. So they don't understand it. So all of these things are very, very important.
It's actually been told that the education system was created for the worker, not for the entrepreneur.
Well, going back on that, so education, the schools itself were built simultaneously with penitentiaries. So if you look at it, it's actually built like a penitentiary. This is actually very crazy.
I actually didn't know that.
Yeah. That's the way it is. That's why when you look at these schools, especially that are like 70 years old, 50 years old, whatever, they look like penitentiaries from the outside. There's no AC units. There's none of that. But overall, it looks like penitentiaries because the whole idea was, how do we actually control the population? The N word was first used, or at least it's known, towards the Irish. So they said, look, these guys are growing up. Once they reach, because it's all about controlling. So prior to your age of 18, can you actually charge someone? Will they be treated as an adult? No, you can't really give them. So the whole idea is to control them. This is what it is. So a lot of the information that you're being given, apart from actually reading, writing, a lot of it, I would say about 50% is fluff.
Yeah, 100%.
It's fluff. So if you take your average, 9 a.m. to, let's say, 4 p.m., you're in education. Someone that's actually a decent learner, it's about 2 hours of work. So why are you there for 8 hours?
And why am I learning the parabolas that I'm not going to need in life?
Is that what happened to you? Because you're just coming out of the education system. So
Yes.
is Caesar exactly right in what he's saying? Have you been put into the establishment as someone that cannot think outside of the box now because you're so institutionalized?
100%. What Caesar said was extremely, extremely accurate. I wouldn't say recently, but a few years back, I was in the education system. And when I was, waking up at 7 a.m., I think that's probably the only good thing that comes from that is waking up early and building good habits. But aside from that, the actual education that I'm receiving is completely pointless.
Well, I wouldn't say pointless. Like, that's an exaggeration, but overall, the idea is to control you. And you are actually perfect to fit into the workforce right after.
Yes.
So even when we're talking about mortgages, it's not a coincidence that it's 25, 30 years amortization.
Yeah.
Because that's essentially, even when you look at mortgages, I don't know if you know this, Steph, but they originated right after the Bolshevik Revolution in 1917. The whole idea is that white picket fence, coming out of World War One, they needed to make sure that the workforce was strong.
Which country was this?
Russia, well, at the time, Soviet Union came out of it, right?
Really?
Yeah. Bolshevik Revolution takes place in 1917. It's a workers' uprise against the capitalist system, against these factory owners and everything. So they said, you know what? How can we actually make sure that we have sufficient workforce? How can I make sure that you, just out of high school, outside of college, because you're always in debt.
Yeah.
I don't know of any student that's not in debt coming out of school, at least for post-secondary education.
Yeah.
So what's happening is then they say, how can we make sure that this guy's going to go to that factory 9 to 5 and not complain? They need to sell you a dream. And that's exactly what they did. Like even for vehicles, right? Even tires. They showed these destinations, these restaurants that were farther. Why? Because if you're not traveling, how are your tires are not wearing off?
Yeah.
So all of this, guys, everything has a purpose. Don't think of it just like this innocent. You have less control than you really do think you are.
Oh yeah, 100%.
They're always talking about these subliminal messages, how, alcohol consumption is higher when your chair is slightly higher. You think these stools that you see at a pub or whatever, it's uncomfortable. Why the hell are you sitting on it? It serves a particular purpose.
But let me jump in here in a
Yeah.
second and challenge what you're saying.
Yeah.
Wasn't it Rockefeller who created the schooling system in order to keep people, workers, just like working for minimum wage, while everyone that wants to be a boss, such as himself, wanted to be rich? So I thought that that's why the education system was set up that way. Think about it. You go to school, you sit down, you listen, you go home. So how are we ever, and this was forever ago, and now how are we going to teach financial literacy when now we live in a community and in a time where there's so much noise? As you said, social media, it's all noise.
Obviously, because I've recently been, in school a few years back, I never thought, so even as simple as going to a gas station and seeing a G-Wagon, for example, you don't think that this guy is probably a doctor or like a big-time corporate lawyer of something of high value or title. You would probably think that this guy does, possibly, criminal activity, or he owns a very big business. And a lot of the business owners that you see, even like the big, Amazon, Apple, all these people, they're high school dropouts. So it kind of goes to show that you don't really need to have a high enough degree to become successful.
It's not necessarily the degrees that make you who you are. It has to do with the skill sets that you have. Like even as a teacher, or when I used to be one, even now, I'm a firm believer that it's all about your skill sets. Are you organized? Are you disciplined? Are you responsible? Are you doing the same set of stuff? Are you hardworking? Like, do you complain? Everybody's self-entitled. This is the issue that I have with modern day society and the youth of today. Even when, you were much younger, forget that. No one cares.
Yeah.
The only person that cares about you is your mother, you crying. That's the only person that's actually going to be there if you're, I don't know, a drug addict or not. The rest, believe me, even myself, I'm your uncle. I'm going to be there for a year and I'm going to say, you know what? He's a waste. Let him be. That's the honest truth.
It is.
When it comes down to it, and people don't want to accept it. People always, the emotional side and this and that. Dude, the banks don't care. Nobody really, well, I care, but I care until I'm fed up. I'm tired of it.
It's conditional love.
Everything is conditional love.
Except
Don't you
from
guys
the
agree?
love from your mom and your dog.
Well, yeah. I forgot about the dog. Yeah. But going back to what Steph was saying, Rockefellers and Rothschilds and these certain families, the system itself, whoever controls it, that's besides the point. I don't really care. I look at the end result. The end result is the system is there to institutionalize you. But you need to step out, and even if, you need to understand what's happening around you. So, but you also have to know your attributes, Steph. Like, for instance, if you're not that person, that's a go-getter. You need that 9 to 5. That's perfect. Because at the end of the day, there's a theory, utilitarianism. They always say the most important thing is your happiness. And that is the case. Are you happy? You can have $1 million in your bank account, but you may be unhappy. So it becomes pointless. So that 9 to 5 may be very happy for you. Or is your job very fulfilling? Like I used to love teaching. I used to love it.
Teaching what?
Well, I taught high school, literally from grade 10 to grade 12. So law, like courses surrounded it. The names change, but business, law, politics, civics courses, like these citizenship courses. So I taught that for about 2-3 years. And eventually I said, you know what? I need to do something where I can make a decent living, because this sort of working, because you're essentially a civil servant. That's what you are. You're working for the government. You're working for the people. The idea behind even crown prosecutors, they don't make a lot of money. I don't know if
Really?
you guys know this. No, they don't.
What is their average salary?
Probably starting up maybe 120 net, probably 70, 75, 80 around there. So realistically, every 2 weeks they're collecting a check for 3,500.
Wait, what do
At
you mean
most.
by net? Like,
No, well, after
they're
you
not
pay
walk-
taxes, right?
After you pay taxes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the whole idea is if you're a civil servant, so that means you're working for the government. The whole idea is you're not supposed to be making a great living. You're supposed to make a living, but it shouldn't be like where you have these G-Wagons or whatever.
Yep.
It shouldn't be. You're not there. If you're going to do this, you need to go into private practice. This is what the system itself is telling you.
Yep. That's exactly what I was touching on when I did mention that G-Wagon. But isn't it crazy how someone can study for 6-7 years, they can get a great salary, but their take home is significantly lower? What do you have to say about it? Can you talk about what the sort of taxation criteria or what brackets are?
So we have a graduated system here. So 15%, 20%, 25%, 30%, 50%. It goes based on your income. But the whole idea is Canada, at its core, is a socialist country. So we don't have private healthcare. No, we don't. So anyone, whether you're rich or poor, you wait in line. So we want to equalize access to healthcare, and money should not play a role. But money does play a role because they just go abroad. So there you go. But either way, as a system, we shouldn't. And so public education, previously we had, eye care. It was free. We had auto insurance. There was government auto insurance, which was always subsidized. But overall, we're a socialist, or we're a social democracy.
Mm-hmm.
So America is more of a capitalist society. So they don't have that. So
Yeah.
here, even if you don't have any money, you need to live in dignity.
Mm-hmm.
So having just the other day, I think I saw it across Mr. Beast, this
Yeah.
YouTuber that's famous.
He's the biggest one.
Yeah, see, I don't know.
135 million subscribers with
Wow.
over 29 billion views.
Wow. And they're doing like multiple languages, but
Correct.
they just, in the United States of America, which is supposed to be the beacon of democracy, what did he do? Like 100,000 people or something that could not see, and the
He
procedure.
corrected their eyes.
Yeah.
Yes.
What was the procedure's like $1,000 or
Correct.
or
And he
some-
actually got a lot of kickback for it.
Like, can you
Really?
imagine? You live in the United States of America, and due to your vision, you can't see, and the procedure itself is like, I don't know, 1,000, like something meaningless.
Yeah.
Let's say 10 grand.
Yeah.
Like, are you insane?
Yep.
You have a population that cannot see, and the vision itself is a 10-minute procedure, and you cannot provide this service. Not only is it counterintuitive because these guys are out of the workforce, but now they've become a liability on you. But forget that. What about people's happiness? Okay, so cash flow itself. We're here to talk about anything that surrounds cash flow, but we're here to also talk about things that are surrounding politics, our day-to-day living, and what you need to be mindful of. I think people need to have proficiency in financial literacy. They need to understand how things work and how they should be saving money and the ways that they can save money.
Without no BS.
Well, without the BS, exactly.
Yes.
So we're going to give it to you based on what we know, guys. So if there is a comment, you say, you know what, Caesar, you're wrong here. I'm completely open to it. I want people to actually comment. I want people to follow us on Spotify, YouTube, and actually educate me. Educate me, guys. I would
100%.
really, really appreciate it, especially in Canada, because some of the YouTube things that I see or people call me all the time, it applies to the United States. It doesn't apply here. So do us a favor, but even the U.S., educate us. If you think what I'm saying is BS or I don't know or it may be very well, just let me know, comment. And I want to carry this podcast, cash flow, to the next level.
And you guys can follow us at Cashflow on all socials, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes.
And your Instagram is?
My Instagram is Mortgages by Amit. And Caesar, yours?
Caesar Homes Canada. I had to think about it there.
And we'll see them next time, guys.
See you guys on the next episode.